nada pode separar você e eu. Tô querendo você e eu.
Hello, welcome to another Happy Histories with Michael. And today we're in Lambeth because this is where William Blake, the famous poet, artist, visionary, madman, lived for a good 10 years of his life with his wife. William Blake was born in 1757, and he's a difficult person to describe, really. He was born into a family of English dissenters. They broke from the Anglican Church and went their own way, effectively. He was educated until the age of 10 in school, enough to learn how to read and write, and then he was sent out to work for a living. But his mother, Catherine, she educated him at home. But as a small child and as an adult, he was exceptional. He had a kind of a perception that is usually the preserve of saints after years of piety, or some drug addicts through various substances. And London was a very different place. This place was fields in his youth. And famously in Peckham as a child, he was walking, roaming the fields, and he saw angels in a tree. And we know what they looked like because he drew pictures of them. And also he had visions of the prophet Ezekiel in his bedroom window and so forth. When he was 10 years of age, he was sent off as an apprentice engraver, and his master sent him off and told him to make drawings in Gothic churches and so forth. And in Westminster Abbey, he had visions of the apostles and Christ Jesus himself. So a very, very unusual character. Now, religious belief cannot really be separated from politics, and with regards to politics, he was very unusual as well. He favoured the French Revolution and the American revolutionaries, so much so that he wore the red bonnet of the French revolutionaries going through London. He was very lucky not to get arrested and so forth. But when he saw the horrors of the guillotine, he changed his mind on this violent form of revolution, and he kind of internalized everything, and he put it out in his poetry and in his art, in his whole life actually. He married his wife Catherine, and when he married her, actually I'm just going to walk up here so we can have there's a mosaic here of Catherine, his wife. And when he married her, she was a very simple, uneducated woman. Man, she wasn't simple at all, but she couldn't read or write. But they fell in love, and he taught her how to read and write. And she was his right-hand man. She worked with him tirelessly all his life. And he's famous really because he is the author of the words to England's unofficial national anthem, Jerusalem. And did these feet in ancient times walk upon England's green and pleasant lands, and so on. But I think he would have balked at it because he really didn't like the Anglican Church, where this hymn is sung, and also it's sung in schools. And he felt that children are kind of brainwashed to some degree in schools. But also, he would have been really angry with the noise of these trains going over here, because he harked back to a time of man's innocence, and he saw England as a holy land. And he wished that the shepherds and the farm workers had been brought in to London for the Industrial Revolution to work in factories. He really mourned this, and he wanted man to live in simplicity. And in fact, one of his most famous sculptures, well, actually there's a sculpture that he made, which is duplicated outside the British Library of Newton bent over with a compass, drawing out everything, making everything logical. And behind him is the natural world. And he felt that we were turning away from the natural world and our souls to become mindless cogs in a machine. But do look at his work, I'm sure you have, and listen to his poetry. Idris Elba, he recites his poem London absolutely beautifully. But the other mark of really a man is how he dies and how he lived. But let me tell you one story before I tell you about his death. He lived just around the corner here, and he was visited by a dear friend, and his friend went into the garden and was gobsmacked to see him stark naked with his wife. And William Blake saw the astonishment on his face, and he said, "Don't worry, it's only Adam and Eve, don't you know?" But when, in the fullness of years, he was to pass away, he was working up until the day that he died. And poor Catherine, she was really upset because she could see that he was dying. And he caught her and he said, "Wait a minute, darling, I'm just going to sketch you." And he sketched her, and then he laid down. But as he was dying, a witness said that his face became calm and so on. And he recounted what he could see of paradise that was awaiting him. In his youth, of course, he was the Bible and Paradise Lost and poems like this. They were his inspiration, and this is what he saw when he died. Now, Catherine, God bless her, she survived him, and she had all of his works, and she wanted to sell them, but she would always say, "Before I decide what to do with this work, I must consult Mr. Blake." And she would consult Mr. Blake, and then she would decide what to do. When she died, she was in a similar state to William Blake when he died, and she was shouting out to him as if he was in the next room. Unfortunately, a lot of his works fell into the hands of some fundamentalists who disapproved of his work, and a lot of work was destroyed. But thank God we do have an awful lot to peruse. Anyway, there's the story of Catherine and William Blake. Thank you for watching.